I don't know how well I'm going to be able to articulate this right now, but I'm going to do my best to relay the messages that Spirit is bringing through right now. They're showing me an anchor point in a timeline. And this timeline is going to make or break your destiny. That's a pretty heavy statement right there. And that's not to shock you into action or to instill any kind of fear. This is a statement, a provocative statement that I think Spirit is bringing through for us to look at, and I'm hearing to attune to. So attuning to the frequency that we would like to be in, that you would like to be in, regarding this potential timeline and a deciding factor, and that factor is you. It's your free will, it's your choice, it's your actions, it's what you want to align to and what you're willing to align to. It's all of these different factors, but it's really contingent and hinging here upon you and yourself. And in the previous readings, we've been talking a little bit about self in terms of identity and even like the ego or shadow selves, the inner child. A lot of themes and topics around that have been coming up. And that's all still relevant here. But I'm also seeing a reference to the bridging between the self and other in this context of this reading. And somehow that's connected to this decision. It's you and the other people, whether it's you and your friends or your family or the world at large. It's the question here is really about you and other, and where's the line? Where's the line between you and them? Where have you drawn the line? Where do you need to redraw the line? Where do you need to set a boundary? Where do you need to communicate or voice that? Where do you need to walk away? I'm seeing a lot of themes come up recently in some of the other readings that I've done for the members, for example, on my other channel, It's Tarot and Beyond, regarding soul groups and family and tribes and friendships and timelines. And they keep saying trigger events. So there's some kind of a trigger event. I mean, I am actually filming this on the full moon in Scorpio. So this could be the inciting event or the trigger event. But in terms of, like, say, for example, the narrative of a story, the archetypal energy that kind of drives the story really is the trigger event or the inciting event. That's what drives the character out of the ordinary world and into the extraordinary world on the hero's journey. And I think this is what we're talking about today, because we have the sword and we also have the stone. What archetypal narrative matches that description? We're meant to look at these archetypes of the sword and the stone to really understand ourselves, our own character, our own narrative, our own story, and how we are at this time connecting different points from within different stories, ours and others. Okay. Hold on. They just showed me. Okay, imagine a whole bunch, like a library of different books with different characters in each one, and each one has a different story. Now imagine that every single one of those books was somehow interconnected with each other, and even though they come from entirely different universes, fantasy, non-fantasy, non-fiction, biographies, like imagine that somehow all of those books actually interconnected and they were all part of this much larger universal story. This is what I'm seeing. It's like there's a bridge between you and other versions of you that are playing out in all of these different stories, and all of these seemingly separate characters are all of a sudden, or maybe from this higher vantage point of the narrator or that bigger picture perspective, being seen as integral players in this plot point in time. I'm also seeing the butterfly effect. They're showing me a purple butterfly right now. I've been seeing a lot of blue butterflies, but this one's purple now. Something about the color purple, the attunement to that indigo frequency, the third eye, being able to see from that bird's eye perspective, or having that viewpoint that really connects all things, being able to see the higher and the lower truths, reading between the lines, but also being able to connect these seemingly separate stories and to see the overarching narrative. Because we also have the bridge. The overarching narrative and where all of these things, you and other people, connect. Now, I have some channeled messages that I've written down, and we'll get into those in a second, but I'm feeling the energy of this message, and they keep saying the word narrative. So what is the narrative? What has the narrative been? And where are you going to move the direction of this story? Because you are the one who gets to decide that, and that's what the sword here talks about. You are the one who gets to decide that. You are, and we have here as well the judge, you are the judge. You get to determine what happens next. But this is interesting because as much as this is about the self, we also have the mirror here. So yes, it's about the self, but it's also about the other self. It's the way you see yourself, and it's also what's reflected back to you from the next card, the village, the group, the collective. Where does your part end and someone else's begins? Where are we seeing ourselves as the main character when we're a supporting character? Or vice versa? Where are we seeing ourselves as a supporting character when we're actually the main character? And we need to put more emphasis on our role in the story and the shaping of it. So this is a really interesting collective message because it's coming up in a collective reading. And the Sword in the Stone is a collective story. I don't even know if it's public domain, but it's a myth, it's a legend that echoes in our eternal collective consciousness. So it's clearly something that Spirit wants us to understand in terms of our own personal context. How the story applies to me is what I just heard. How the story applies to you. So in the book, the stone is the eternal, the anchor, the rock. As an archetypal object, the stone holds psychic and literal weight. Its energy is one of permanence, concreteness, and reliability. The stone's ability to transform is nearly imperceptible to us as it changes ever so slowly over countless human lifespans. A single stone may see thousands of generations come and go. Therefore, it contains an ancient and eternal presence. I'm hearing just like stories, although they're quicker to change. Okay, interesting. The stone is best used to anchor our wild side, so no matter how far we roam, we can always find our way back. The stone tethers us to the earth, helping to ground and connect us to stillness, quiet, and peace. Grounding in ourselves, the truth of our reality, I'm hearing. And they're saying something about a deciding factor, the deciding factor in what we ground into reality. When this card appears, it is likely the stone is a remedy for what ails us. Humble and easily unnoticed, the power of the stone balances the frenzy of our world. And that's the village. That's the village energy, the feeling of that frenzy in the world. Because it feels to me like whatever timelines we're traversing into right now, they're a little bit unstable. Or they've been destabilized and they need to be re-anchored. And this could be where your role comes in, the part that you're meant to play in creating this anchor point within yourself through your own decisions. They just said shock collar. It's reminding me of shock collar. Ooh, that feels like village energy in the shadow sense, like where the village has programmed you not to go outside the bounds of what's comfortable. Like a dog wearing a shock collar with an invisible fence, if you go past that boundary, it hurts. And you retreat back into the self again. Where we're drawing the line and cutting off that shock collar to be the shot collar, where you get to call the shots in your life and what you create. And what you will abide by and what you will not, and for good reason. This is the wisdom of the crone. I mentioned the mother maiden crone in the previous reading that I did. And here's the Crone card coming out for the first time on my channel from this deck. I just heard the name Rachel. That was random. That could be for someone very specific. The Crone, this aspect of the self that is wise beyond its years. It is the collective consciousness of the village and the self put into one. They're saying something about a resting place. I just heard resting place. Where do we go to rest? Well, we go to the stone, we anchor into the self. But the bridge here is making me feel like there's some kind of like a middle territory. There's a middle territory that we need to access here. The telepathic link to a grounding source that is beyond this world, despite the fact that the earth is coming up connected to the stone. It's beyond this world. It's transdimensional. It's internal. Oh, the mirror through the looking glass. There's a portal that's open right now. And that portal is in the self. You are the portal. So how are you looking at yourself? How are you seeing yourself? How are you accessing different parts or aspects of yourself within the collective that's being mirrored back to you from the village around you? Where have you set limitations upon yourself that have restricted you? And where do you need to reassess those? To renegotiate, or to not negotiate at all and step in as the judge and say, my ruling is my ruling, and what I say goes. And if it doesn't say, then it just goes. Interesting. There's a bit of like a weird tension right now energetically between permanence and impermanence. I'm feeling like there's this struggle between like, where does the boundary line reside? With that bridge, it's hard to tell the difference between one world and the other, one timeline and the other, one self and the other. What is self and what is not self? And looking in the mirror is going to be helpful right now because it's allowing us to see aspects of the self, whether it's in the literal mirror or in a video, or in interacting with other people and seeing what they evoke within you, or even just seeing yourself in them, whether you like it or not. We have to look at these collectively held beliefs and where we've internalized those things, where they're mirrored back to us in this larger game of life, the narrative that we're playing and contributing to in the story. And taking up our role with sword in hand of what we would like to create and what we no longer wish to contribute to. Okay, so that being said, let's take a look at the sword and then we'll go into the channel notes as well. To use the sword is to decide. The blade separates one reality from another. The choice is made and all else falls away. If you find the sword in your grasp, you can no longer hesitate. This weapon requires a clear and decisive mind and a willingness to act. An onlooker may think the sword bearer is hasty and violent, but the most compassionate and responsible gesture is that one that is honest, swift, and accurate. Our first encounter with the sword is at birth, when the cord we share with the mother is cut. This moment defines our separation from her and begins our journey of becoming ourself. We must make these cuts again and again if we are to grow. Decisions shape our life. And the sword is an infamous shaper of destiny. Where do cords need to be cut? Where do attachments need to be reclaimed in your own sovereignty? Where do you need to make some changes in the types of relationships that you have or the way that you perceive those relationships in your life? Decisions and willingness to act are at the forefront of this message and are paramount in the changing of this narrative or this collective script that we are individually creating and connecting to. Okay, they want me to read the village before we go to the notes that I've channeled out from them. Where's the village? Well, it's right after the dead end, which I think is significant. The hometown, the family, the tribe. The village presents us with a conundrum. On one hand, it's the place that feels most like home, the place to which you can always return. Nostalgia and comfort draw us back. On the other hand, it's the very place you must leave in order to grow. Around the village, an unspoken boundary exists, one most villagers do not want you to cross. Though some support you leaving, still you hear whispers of doubt as you venture beyond its borders, leaving them behind. The energy of the village is present any time we feel restricted by a certain group, community, family, place, or ideology. It may have served us in the past, yet staying within its parameters will never satiate our thirst for life. I'm hearing and truth, and that the sword can represent truth as well, our own personal truth. That's part of our development. Thank the village for all it has provided, knowing you will someday return. For now, the world awaits. And I'm seeing that bridging the gap into the unknown and going into this sort of uncharted or unnarrated territory. It's like the blank page where anything is possible. And all of these stories that have existed beforehand are now becoming just a distant echo of what could be. Okay. So, to the notes. There's a lot of them. First of all, Spirit had me write down all of the cards that came out, which I don't always do. And they pointed the bridge and the mirror to the stone card. So it was almost as if the stone was like this center point that was anchoring the bridge and the mirror. So the bridge being our connection to this other realm or to each other, and the mirror being, again, our reflection or a portal to ourselves. The village then came out underneath that, and I heard, know thy neighbor, know thyself, and I wrote down, and vice versa, because it can go in both directions, as the bridge tends to do, right? This isn't a one-way bridge. It's built to allow access from both sides. Maybe that's why we have to have boundaries with it. Where are we traversing psychically? Where are we traversing energetically when we connect with other people? And where do we need to be aware of those boundaries, whether they're serving us or not? I heard becoming whole, oneness within, becoming one, and then they showed me the mirror card again. So there was an aspect of this wholeness that can only be achieved through the awareness of the self that this mirror, whether it's literal or symbolic, is providing to us. The mirror of the self, to know the self. And the dimensions I just heard. The rainbow bridge, the connection between these dimensions, these different realms of self and of consciousness. Okay. Hi, Kitty. Kitty's here. Kitty's for confirmation. Hi, sweetie. Then I heard the waste basket, and it was interesting. I kind of laughed because they showed me a basket on the waist, like a waste basket, instead of a waste basket being like where you throw your garbage. They showed it to me almost like a basketball hoop on your waist. And then I was kind of just spitballing with that idea, like hula hoop, something about the waist. I heard slam dunk, and that felt powerful to me. That powerful energy of the slam dunk, like it takes a lot to jump up and to slam that ball through the hoop, but not if it's at waist height. Maybe this is something to do with the solar plexus, power, the waist that's in the stomach, the solar plexus. And then when I said slam dunk, or when I wrote down slam dunk, I heard debunk, and then I heard debunker. Now, debunker, I'm realizing right now, could even be somebody who debunks a false truth or aka a lie of some kind and mirrors back the truth or bridges the gap here to allow us to see something. Maybe you're this debunker. But in my mind, what I was being shown, it's 5:55 on the clock as I'm saying this, 5:55 p.m. The change of the narrative. But they were showing me a bunker, like a bomb shelter almost, with the word D written on the door, a D bunker. But I'm realizing it could be that you're debunking something. And then they said the telepathic timestamp. And I heard timeline anchor event. And that's where I started this reading. I forgot that I actually wrote that down. That was just coming through as I was channeling and I was connecting to the cards and the energy of this reading. But yeah, this telepathic timestamp, a timeline anchor event. And then I was thinking about how on YouTube, timestamps are put in the comments, or you can link them or pin them down below. And they help you with one click to jump ahead to a certain point so that you don't have to watch the whole video, or you can go back to a certain point. So maybe this is about our accessibility of particular points in time or trigger events in history, even if we're looking at the reflection of ourselves through a more philosophical or historical lens. But it was interesting because when I wrote down what timestamps do on YouTube, which allows you quick access with a click to a point in time, I was kind of looking at other things and I got an email, and then it was like just with one click or something, like it was like an ad for YouTube. It actually, interestingly, it was an ad for what is that app? It's a YouTube app that helps you to like understand the algorithm and to do it, but you have to pay for it, and I don't pay for it, but I get the ads. And it was like with just one click, something about YouTube success. Okay. And I was like, one click away, like we're one click away, one decision away. If the sword is no longer a sword and it's a mouse or it's a phone, right? We're in this technological era that we're in that allows us to make these decisions on what we click into, what we're watching, what we're consuming, what we are participating in, what we're co-creating, the bridge into different realities. Each person is a portal. Each person is a book, a character. They all are part of this larger story. So I'm seeing like this butterfly effect of this cause and effect ripple, and how all of these people are connected, and how we are all connected in the illusion of reality. And how everything is working together. I'm hearing coalescing with these intentional clicks, or these intentional decisions, or these intentional thoughts, and the processing of them. Now, another thing that I wrote down, which relates back to the village again, was click is also a word for a group of people. Like they're very clicky. So I wrote down click, unit, family, neighbors, community, tribe, and then of course the village card is here. So it's connected to that message of group consciousness. They showed me stacking as well, and they showed me blocks either for creating a barrier or a resistance point or a boundary to create walls for better or for worse, and or how the block is for building. So that's the stone again, the block. The block, is it for anchoring? Is it for building? Is it for blocking something out? And I heard group consciousness stacking. Group consciousness stacking. And they're showing me right now blockchain. I think that's a, what do you call that? Bitcoin reference? Blockchain? Something about how each individual part is separate but connected. And so it prevents any kind of interference or piracy, or I don't know how all that works, but there's something about blockchain and group consciousness stacking is kind of like that, but in terms of timelines and in terms of intention and in terms of the narrative and the story that we're telling here collectively. And then they said the unit, because I wrote down unit after I wrote down click, but this time they said the unit of time. Again, going back to timestamps, like how do you find a unit of time? And then they said the unit of unit, or unit of unit, which I don't know what that's talking about. And in my mind, I was going unit, unity, oneness, going back to that becoming whole message again, the mirror, the bridge, what we're building, the story, the narrative. So I'm kind of like trying to put it all together here. Maybe it's a unit of measurement, like you plus me equals unity, you plus me equals we. And this is the bridge that we need to close the gap on in some way to create harmony, to create this consciousness that is unified in its whole state and therefore better able to create. And then I pulled some charms, and I don't know if I want to talk about those just yet. No. So where do we go from here in this message, Spirit? What would you like me to bring through? Okay, they're pointing me back to the sword again, and they're saying a consciousness unit and timekeepers or time holders. They're showing me alarm clocks. Something about repeatedly hitting snooze. And this could be even talking about the Great Awakening. I've been seeing references to Uranus and Pluto and squares, so tense aspects that cause us to, they're saying ripple effect, that cause us to have to face certain challenges in our awakening, like the dark night of the soul, or something about collective karma as well. Actually, I wrote that down in my notes app. Something about collective karma and not having to bear the burden because you didn't write the whole story. Like, you're the main character of your book and you're a supporting character in all these other books, but you didn't write the whole story. So who did? We all did. We all did, to some degree. So what do we need to know about this right now? Like, why is this message even coming through? Oh, thanks, Spirit. They said, get a clue. Oh, I took that flippantly, like, get a clue. No, figure it out. But no, they're saying, like, get a clue. To get a clue. This is a clue. There's clues in this. Breadcrumbs, puzzle pieces, a part of the narrative, an important story point that we're being drawn to pay attention to because it's part of this much larger collective outcome. They're showing me dominoes. So yeah, the ripple effect, the domino effect, the butterfly effect, there's some kind of chain of events that are unfolding. Yeah, blockchain, chain of events within the collective that are taking place right now. Maybe the astrology is part of it. Maybe it's part of our collective maturation. Maybe it's because we've made some kind of a weighted decision, like all of the weight has placed on one side of that karmic scale, and now we're moving in that direction. The momentum's picking up. The village has spoken. What's that from? Survivor? The tribe has spoken, and then you vote someone out. But even the essence of that game, even though it's a game, is pitting people against each other. It's not a tribe of unity consciousness souls, or at least that's not the idea of the game. The idea of the game is that there's one winner and everybody's fighting for survival to maintain their position on the island. So there's something here about this village consciousness that we need to take a look at and see where we fall in alignment with I'm hearing something about productivity or production of events. Now they're showing me a movie crew with like production and how it takes so many people to make this story come to life. People who specialize in certain things and have to work together as a team effort to really make something concrete, the stone. Yeah, bringing it, anchoring it into reality. Okay, that's so crazy. We've got the Seven of Wands coming out as the first card from the tarot. And she's in this card, she's literally using these wands to build a bridge. And we had the bridge. The bridge. Look. But the Seven of Wands is about boundaries. It's about standing up for ourselves or what we believe in, or maybe this is the narrative that's changing, and the self, all versions of the self, I'm hearing all versions of the self standing up for the greater whole. A narrative shift. They're singing. They're quoting Three Musketeers right now in my head. All for one and one for all. This is taking a stand for the group, for the collective, on behalf of the collective. Setting your own personal judgments or biases aside because we need to work towards a collective greater good. It's reminding me of how we were talking about the stone being used to build walls that can separate, or being used as an anchor. And being used as something that grounds us, that anchors us, that protects us. Something that's long lasting. It exists throughout the ages. And I'm seeing this person in the Seven of Wands with her backpack on, going on this adventure, and kind of finding a way to bridge from rock to rock with this fast moving water running down the middle. So from timeline to timeline, from world to world. They said from worlds to worlds. Okay. To move between the realms. To be able to bridge some kind of a gap here. The gap in the stone. Or lack thereof. There's no gaps in the stone. We have the Six of Cups. The past meets the present meets the future. They're showing it to me like this bridging from past, present, future, future, present, past. Not necessarily in that order, but it's like a hop, skip, and a jump from one to the other, from one rock to another. They're showing me like, instead of a bridge here in this Seven of Wands, they're showing me like different stones that you would like step onto. What is that? Not skipping stones. Although same thing, same idea. I just realized, like skipping a stone, it jumps, causes a ripple, jumps, causes a ripple, jumps, causes a ripple. So the past is affecting our present, and the present is what's shaping our future. So to change the future, we have to change the past to go back to the future. And something about these timeline events. Okay, it's kind of like a movie where it starts in the middle, but then you have to go back to figure out what led to that point, and then that's what creates the conclusion, the ending. And I've been seeing synchronicities about like a finalization or a conclusive ending that's satisfying, and the types of stories that don't have good endings that we're not satisfied by. So maybe there was an ending in a timeline that we explored, either consciously projecting ourselves forward that way, or in some way we went through and played out that entire timeline, and we were like, I don't really like that for the collective or for the village, and we need to go back and we need to amend that, or we need to fix that in some way. Uranus, the great awakener and the fixer, needing to fix that through some kind of global adjustment or collective consciousness shift. Now, how do you do that? Well, you have to go back. They keep showing me references to Back to the Future and the DeLorean and the electricity and Doc and going back to the past to fix the future. It's like there's an energy here. There's a message here of like timeline jumping, basically. And more so than we would do just in our natural everyday life. You know, we constantly shift timelines, but this is much bigger. This is like global defining timelines, and you as an individual, especially those who were drawn to this video, if you're at the consciousness frequency to be able to behold this message, there is an empowerment within you to act in a certain way that is going to align with the goals of the collective, that is going to align with this larger narrative that we're all playing out and part of, and how that is going to impact the world as it moves into the future. Yeah, I'm hearing calling all souls, and I heard the word request. So Spirit is requesting attendance from those who are ready, able, and willing to make some kind of change. Now, what is that change? They're saying standing up for values of the narrative. It's like, what is the message? What is the story? The allegory. Now I'm seeing an alligator. The alligator's tail, something about the tail of the alligator, something about alligators. We got the Five of Swords, conflict and defeat and contention and us versus them. This is like the distorted survivor mentality of it's us versus them instead of all for one and one for all. So this is, oh, you know what? The alligator tail reminds me of like the reptilian brain, which is our survival part of the brain. It's the lowest, least evolved. It controls the motor and the sensory, but that's pretty much it. And like our fight or flight. So we have to get out of that. We have to make a conscious decision to anchor, to ground, to a timeline where there's more wisdom accessible to us and where we're a conduit for that. But we have to make that decision. We have to alter our frequency to fit and to match that amidst a population that is predominantly not in that frequency. And that's a difficult thing to do. When the status quo goes against what you're anchoring, it's difficult to embody that in a steady way. But I'm seeing that this is the call to action. This is the driving force behind this message and behind what Spirit is calling us all to do right now. It's like we have to they're saying creating a pathway forward, and then they started playing Stairway to Heaven, which came up in a previous reading. And I won't go into that detail on that, but if it comes up on your feed or you come across it or something, that's going to be a synchronicity for someone. So the Five of Swords and the Ace of Cups, we need to return to harmony. We need to get back to unity. It's not us versus them. It's us versus us. And when are we going to stop doing that? I'm seeing this pearl of wisdom in the Ace of Cups here being at the center of the stone, actually. They just showed me a stone, and then at the center of that stone, this vibrant pearl. But I just heard pool, like a pool of water inside the stone, and that's where the pearl is held. And when we pull the stone, when we pull the sword from the stone, we are put in possession of that pearl. That pool of wisdom is made accessible to us. And that's what makes us... Oh, they just said something about a counter narrative or counterintuitive. What are you talking about there? Because I was just going to say something about how when Arthur pulled the sword from the stone, it was indicative of his right to rule. So this could be about self-sovereignty, or leadership of the village, or breaking down the barriers, or building a better layout, a better system. But they said counterintuitive, counterintelligence, counter-narrative, something going against that. Something about the judge is, what are you talking about with the judge? Temperance. Wow, look at this too. Light and dark. Sunny and stormy, and it's kind of the same image as in the sword. Look at that. They're so similar. The lightning, the light and dark, the different colors, the bridge between them. Yeah, the bridge. We have to find a way to bridge these polarities. We have to find a way to bridge the separation. We have to find a way to create connection, and it starts with us. Because we can't go out into the world and change anyone else. We are only ever sovereign and responsible for ourselves. But that's how you change the village. One person changing themselves at a time. That ripple effect. That's what bridges the gap. And it's through temperance that we're going to be able to do this. Now, this came out clarifying the judge. So temperance as the judge is kind of like a wait and see attitude. Like it's permanent, but it's impermanent. We just kind of have to see how things play out while at the same time holding a detached or observer perspective. But it's interesting because the drive or the call to action is to actually do something or to make a decision or to anchor something into reality. And that's not a passive role. So again, we have these like two very opposite polarities that are in tension, in direct opposition with each other, that we have to find a way to reconcile. We have to find a way to bring them into balance, into harmony, because that's what unity consciousness and the embodiment of it requires. But we're coming from a split dualistic mindset here with that Five of Swords. So the only way to heal that or to rectify that separation is by bridging the gap through love. We can't come from the mind anymore. We have to come from the heart. We have to be willing to see each other as we see ourselves. But if we can't see ourselves with love, how are we going to see anybody else with love? That's why it starts in the mirror. They're playing Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror. Very, very, yeah, that's the message right there. Let's look up the lyrics of that song. I know it talks about not being able to change anyone else. You have to change yourself. The Man in the Mirror lyrics. I'm going to make a change. Chains. I didn't mean to say chains. Again, I'm going to make a chain of events. Maybe by doing something, maybe you're going to do something that's going to start a chain reaction. It just takes one. It takes one person to start dancing to get other people off their butts and start dancing with you. I'm going to make a change for once in my life. It's going to feel real good, going to make a difference, going to make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids in the street with not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? A summer's disregard, a broken bottle top, and a one man's soul. They follow each other on the wind, 'cause they got nowhere to go. That's why I want you to know. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If they want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. I've been a victim of a selfish kind of love. It's time that I realize that there are some with no home, not a nickel to loan. Could it be really me pretending that they're not alone? A willow deeply scarred, somebody's broken heart, and a washed out dream. They follow the pattern of the wind, you see, 'cause they got no place to be. That's why I'm starting with me. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. Okay, so that's really the core message of this reading, is that we're being called to make a change in how we are able to see ourselves, hold space for ourselves, love ourselves, to appreciate every aspect of ourselves, to have these healthy boundaries as an act of self-love, and to know where we begin and end while at the same time holding that frequency of unity. So not coming from that separateness of the walls being in place, but rather having those walls tumble down and instead building bridges, but still having certain access points where we're making sure that we're keeping ourselves and others safe. Do unto the world as you would have done unto yourself. Some people are refusing the call. I don't know if it's anybody in this group or the collective of souls that I'm reading for, but they're saying something about refusing the call. You see how the God hand is coming out of the cloud and offering her this access to information, and she's not willing to see it, or maybe she's not able to see it. But there's going to be somebody who's going to be called to lead the way here, and it just takes one. But if everybody comes and starts doing something or taking action or making a change within themselves and in the world, that's going to show up. That's going to have a massive ripple effect. So somebody's going to answer the call, and then as a result, someone else will answer the call, and so on and so forth. This is the chain reaction. And each person stands on their own, and yet it's all connected. It's all connected. Yeah, I'm seeing the cows here. It's like the herd, the tribe. They all follow the shepherd. Who's the shepherd? Well, we all are. We all have that embodiment within us. We all have that archetype. It just needs to be allowed. I'm hearing allowed to express. Allowed. Giving yourself access. Giving yourself the ability to do what maybe you've been afraid to do. Okay, we've got the Six of Swords, the Four of Swords, and the World. And then I think we will go into an extended reading on this because I want to dive deeper, and we're already 46 minutes in. So the Six of Swords, the Four of Swords, and the World here, it's like you've got to take a stand by passively taking action. This is so weird. It's such a strange message. Passively taking action. Because what we're talking about here is an internal process, but it does have real ramifications on the outside. I'm hearing something about, I almost said heard again. I'm hearing something about certifiable ramifications, or certifiable. Something will be certified. Something will be made or legitimized. It'll be made concrete. Something will be carved in stone or set in stone in some way. A new era, a new timeline of events. And this is something we're all co-creating. So let's take the responsibility now within ourselves. We're not taking the weight of the world on our shoulders. I woke up hearing that song in my head, Chantal Kreviazek, Weight of the World. We're not taking that onto our shoulders. We're just taking responsibility for ourselves. And in that, we make a difference. That's the timeline amendment. That's the shift. Okay, so yeah, we are going to go into an extended here, and we're going to look deeper into maybe your role in this and what this might look like or shake out as for you, or what this impact on the world will have in terms of the types of changes that could potentially come from this. This will be like sort of a long-term, long-scale reading, but this is like present moment, very anchored, grounded energy at the time of this reading or whenever you happen to see it. So we're going to come together as a community, and we're going to start making things happen. We're going to shake things up. We're going to start changing the status quo, and we're going to bring ourselves back together to be in this state of loving acceptance and unity consciousness at the core. That's my mission. That's why I'm here. And if you're on board with that, then let's go. Let's get to it. All right, guys, that's the message. That's the reading. We're going to go into the extended now. If you would like to join us for the extended, you can become a member. You get access to all the extended readings that I've done and all the ones that are coming up in the future. So stick around for those if you'd like to. The link is in the description box below. Don't forget to check out my other channel where I do pick a card readings, and we dive a little bit more into specific subjects or topics that are, of course, always channeled, but are more specific to each individual because we do separate groups. That's my other channel linked below as well. It's called It's Tarot and Beyond. Thank you guys for all of your support here on the channel. Thank you to all of the new subscribers who have jumped on from one of the previous readings that went a little bit viral. So thank you guys for bringing all of your powerful energy to this present space and the work that we're doing here. Thank you for the donations. I saw a lot of super thanks come in, and I really appreciate you guys for your monetary support and valuation of my work. It really does mean a lot to me, and it helps me continue doing it. So thank you. Thank you to the members here on the channel and on my other channel as well. You guys know who you are. You are awesome. You're the real soul tribe and soul family. And I commend you on your efforts, on your love, and on your presence. You have created a lot of stability and anchoring in my life. So thank you for that. And if you're looking for any affiliate links or discount codes, those are in the description box as well. We've got crystal jewelry discount codes for Otter Spirit. You can access those through otterspirit.com and use my code Siobhan20. If you need to know how to spell that, it's in the description box because I know my name is hard to pronounce. Okay, guys, I love you, and we'll see you in the next reading. Bye.